next topic is chapter 11, and it's verbal and visual support. So we're going to start off by playing a game. So can we have some volunteers? Come on. Yeah, come on. Okay, so what we're going to have you do,
Yeah.
it's kind of like a detail on a donkey, but we're making visual aids. So you want to start right here.
Okay.
And then walk up, close your eyes, and try and put it on this poster. And then we're also
So stand
gonna
over here, facing the poster.
facing the poster.
Facing the poster?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then do you want to make
You're going to try and
bar
make a
chart?
bar chart.
yeah.
And then the other people are going to make a diagram.
Okay, I get it. And then there's a pie.
Pie chart.
So you just close your
Close your
eyes.
eyes.
Perfect.
Oh man, can I redo it?
Oh, you're good.
Go, Rocky, go.
Okay, so we're
Just close your eyes, go.
Close your eyes.
Just go, go.
got him.
Come on, I got this. You got it, you got it, you got it. Come on, you got it.
Feel it, sharp.
Feel it.
Oh,
Yeah, that's pretty
yeah. Give me a more.
Yeah, Avery. I feel like our pie chart is easier.
Pie chart is easier.
I know. Okay, you ready? Okay.
Go here.
Where's
Ronnie.
the line?
Okay, three more people want to come up. Oh, really easy,
Finish.
guys.
Raise your hands.
You get Starburst. Starburst.
50%. Good job.
Thank you. Yes.
Just keep going.
No, I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
I want the
Anything else? Two more people. You didn't eat breakfast
Yeah, you
this
can go
morning?
twice.
Coming up again.
Oh, God.
Great.
Oh,
Oh, perfect. Do I want to start first?
Ronnie, spin. Okay, thank you.
Okay, go.
Left. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want another one?
Okay, so our whole presentation is on verbal and visual support. So this was just kind of showing you how to make a visual aid. And sometimes it can be this hard to make it look good. Sometimes it can be really easy. So
So, supporting material. You know what it is? Great. If you don't know, I'm going to tell you. Supporting material is anything that backs up the claims in a presentation. Supporting material can make the presentation more effective by adding three things: clarity, interest, and proof. Clarity is supporting material that can make abstract or complicated ideas more understandable. One example of this is, well, from the book. It said, imagine that you're driving a car and it has none of the driving parts, such as the steering wheel, gas pedal, and brake pedal that you're used to having in order to move around. All you have is a keyboard. So in order to speed up, change lanes, turn, slow down, all that sort of stuff, you have to type in a shortcut on the keyboard. So if you put that in wrong, well, then you're going to be in big trouble because you could probably break your car. Probably wouldn't be very good. So they compared that to using a graphical interface on a computer, because all they had were key typewriters, which didn't really work that well on the screen. The next one is interest. Interest is to enliven a presentation by making your points more vivid or meaningful. The example it gives in the book is when Abraham Lincoln was a trial lawyer, he was arguing a case with a lawyer whose version of the facts came more from his imagination than from the actual testimony. So, to get this to stop, Lincoln said, "Tell me, sir, how many legs does a sheep have?" The man responded, 4. Then Lincoln asked, so if he imagined that his tail was a leg, how many legs would he have? The man answered 5. Lincoln then roared, no, he would still have 4. Calling his tail a leg would not make it a leg. Now let's look at the actual testimony and see how many tails you've been calling legs. The third one is proof. Proof is supporting material can provide evidence for your claims and make the presentation more convincing. An example of this is if a business wanted to institute a new program, they could use a survey given at another company that had instituted the same program and show how the benefits of instituting the program would help benefit the company as well.
Okay, so now that we've learned about the different functions of supporting material, we're going to talk about different types of visual aids. So our first types of visual aids are objects and models. So if you have something to show people, and good things with that is it just add interest, and it can also provide hands-on experiences for people.
However, bad things to objects and models is that they can be too small sometimes, and that they can be distracting to your audience.
The next one you can use is photographs, and that can just, it kind of also adds proof. If it's something that people need to actually see, then you can show photographs.
Diagrams are the same thing. They illustrate what needs to be represented, and they can add proof to what you're saying as well.
And then listen tables can highlight key facts and show tallies and compare different items that you're talking about.
The listen table is on the last one, but listen tables can be too hard to read sometimes and have too much information on them, so that could be the downside.
Okay, our next slide we're talking about is the different types of graphs that you can use, which are kind of similar to the ones we used over here. But the first one is a pie chart, and those are good because you can use percentages, and it just kind of shows, a lot of times I'll use them for where money goes, or different objects are spread out in a company.
Bar charts compare changes in several items, while column charts reflect the changes in a single item.
Pictograms are these ones right here, and those, the good thing about those are they're just more interesting to look at when they have pictures showing the graphs.
And then the graphs compare two things, and they show the correlation between them, and it helps it become clear and not clustered.
Okay, and then our last one is how, ways to present them. And so in our the last presentation we had, they used a video, and those are really good if you need action to be shown, or you need the audience to see something that you couldn't otherwise.
However, videos can be a little risky sometimes, because if they're too long, then it'll drag on really far, and if they're not the right type of video, it looks unprofessional to use it.
The next type is chalk and boards, having the whiteboard behind you, and those are really good for if you're brainstorming with your audience, you need to take tallies, or if you've just come up with something on the spot, you can write on it really quick.
A con to that is that you have to turn your back to the audience, and so you're not talking to anyone, and it can be hard to hear.
Flip charts and poster boards are good because they're simple and you don't have to use any electronic equipment, and they're really portable.
However, those can be a little too big sometimes, and can be kind of distracting.
Transparencies and photographic slides are good because you can just put them over a projector and write on them. So if you, kind of like with brainstorming, if any ideas come up, you can just write them down.
The only problem with those ones is that they're kind of big, and so you're in the dark as well because you have to turn off the lights, and they're just hard to carry around.
It's kind of the same thing with, I guess, computer displays. You can, they're easy to transport, but a bad side to them is that you have to be back in the dark again. And then with handouts, those are good because they're a per-minute record of what you've written down, and you can add more detail to them and hand them out. And a bonus is that your audience doesn't have to take notes while you're talking, so they can focus all their attention on you.
And the other problem with handouts is that they can be distracting with your audience. So,
those are our different types.
yep.
Okay, so I will be discussing about verbal supports, and the good thing about verbal supports is that they can be used to add interest, clarity, or proof to a presentation. And the most common types of verbal supports for professional presentations would be definitions, examples, stories, statistics, and quotations. So I'm going to talk about definitions first. So definitions, all audiences, they can appreciate definitions pretty well. You never want to leave an audience confused. You always want to clear up like unclear terms and make sure you get your point across. So an example of this would be like, say I'm giving a presentation on film industry or something, and I'm talking about Bollywood. So a few people might not know what Bollywood means, and what Bollywood is, it's the informal Hindi language film industry based in Mumbai, India. So I could have said that and you could have thought it's just like some wood like in your kitchen, Bollywood. So. Yeah, so now let's jump to examples. Examples, they're really good in verbal support. They give a brief illustration that can back up or explain a point pretty well. So an example of an example would be used like when someone is trying to sell you like a laptop like in a computer store. So say like they're trying to sell you a laptop and they can say, oh, this hard drive, it's super fast, the graphics on this thing are really good. They could give you all this stuff to try and persuade you to sell you that item. So yeah, and then let's see here, stories for verbal support. Those are also very essential to a good presentation. I know that when I'm in an audience and I hear a story, I connect to the speaker because he's giving personal information or other people's personal information, which is kind of interesting and gets me off the chair and I listen. So yeah, stories, they illustrate an incident in some detail, and everyone loves to hear a good story, as I said. Sometimes they can even like get a point across, like further across than like logic and reasoning alone. Stories can be hypothetical, so like imagine yourself in this position, or they can be factual or fictional. Factual are probably more useful because they can get a point across better and persuade the audience more. But it's important, like when you're doing a story, make sure it's appropriate to the audience. You don't want to offend them. Make sure it's brief. You don't want to be like going on forever and ever, otherwise it gets boring eventually. And make sure it supports the point you're trying to make. You don't want to be rambling on about a bunch of random stuff. Just make sure you're sticking to the point, get the message across. That's my presentation.
And so just to continue his topic about verbal support, I'm going to talk about statistics, comparisons, quotations, and then I'm going to talk about having cite your quotations. So first is statistics. And statistics are when you use numbers to represent ideas. They're really helpful when you want to get a point across and you want to seem like you know what you're talking about. And they're great because they are all based completely in facts. But the problem with them is that often the audience won't understand where you're going. Like if I was to sit up here and ramble off numbers, you guys would eventually get to the point where you have no idea what I was talking about. So one way to help that is to not use very many numbers, and when you do use them, to round them off. So rather than using like 66.9%, you would just say 2/3. Then the next thing I'm going to talk about is comparisons. Comparisons are just examinations that show, like, connect one idea to another. There's two different types. The first type is figurative, and that's when you connect something that is like that they don't know about to something that they would know about. So it's connecting the unknown to the known. And these are helpful because they help you explain a new point that they wouldn't necessarily understand before. And then the second point is literal. Literal is when you use two things that are similar and then use them to connect each other, such as using like this business is doing good with this product, so we want to use this product as well so that we can become more effective. And so when using them, make sure that the audience is familiar with at least one term that you're using, and make sure that the comparison is valid and that it connects, so you're not just connecting two things that have nothing to do with each other. Now I'm going to talk about quotations. Quotations are when you use an expert, an opinion of an expert, or you use an articulate source. Quotations are used to add clarity, interest, and to prove your point. So when using, you can paraphrase, and after you paraphrase or just give the straight quotation, you have to cite your source, which means just getting like who said it, so that you're not plagiarizing their work. You want to use sources that are credible, so you don't want to use a source from McDonald's when you're trying to give a huge presentation on the health field. You want to use someone that is knowledgeable and professional. So there's 4 steps to using them. First, you want to state your point, so what you're trying to get across to the audience. Then you want to cite your source, so say who it came from, and then you want to quote your source, which just is saying the quote or paraphrasing the quote so that the audience can understand it, and then explaining how or why that happens to go with your material and how it supports and proves your point. And so that's all that I have. So.
Okay, so to finish up our presentation, I'm going to be talking about the guidelines for using visual aids and presentation software. So the 3 guidelines for using visual aids are selection, design, and presentation. So selection, you want to make sure you have a reason for using the visual aid, or else it can drag away from your presentation altogether. So you need to keep your slideshows brief and match the sophistication of the visual aid to your audience. Design, confusing or sloppy designs will take away from your presentation as well. So you need to keep it simple and use brief words and only use horizontal writing. And label items for clear identification so everyone knows what you're talking about and there's no confusion. So presentation, the way you present is just as important as the way you design your presentation. So display a visual aid only when you're talking about that visual aid, and make sure your visual is large enough for everyone to see. And okay, so then presentation software, there's advantages and disadvantages. So the advantages is that it enables the speaker to generate customized material and display information in outline and slide formats. The dangers of using the presentation software is that you can have poorly conceived messages, design over content, and overly complex presentations. So to avoid these dangers, you need to organize your points clearly and don't spend more time on the presentation than the content. And then digital displays can dazzle the audience, but you want to make sure that it's not dragging away from you as the presenter. Okay, so that is our presentation. We hope you guys learned about visual aids and how to use them and when to use them.